The massive space station, known as the Galactic Research Institute, spun slowly against the backdrop of glittering stars. Inside, Chief Researcher Anxthel paced back and forth in the main conference room, his forearms twitching with nervous energy. Today was different from any other day in his 300 years of scientific research. Today, they would welcome their first human. Are all safety protocols in place? Anxthel asked, turning to his assistant, Iltrix, who was checking readings on a floating holographic display. Yes, Chief. We have adjusted the gravity in Section C to match Earth standards at 9.8 meters per second squared. Though I must say, the very thought of living under such crushing force. Iltrix's tentacles shuddered. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and both aliens turned to face the newcomer. Dr. Li Jiwan stood in the doorway, her standard-issue United Earth Science uniform neat and crisp. She was shorter than the aliens had expected for a creature from a high-gravity world, standing only 165 centimeters tall. Her black hair was tied back in a simple style, and she carried a small bag over her shoulder. Greetings, honored researchers of the Galactic Institute, Jiwan said, bowing slightly. I am Dr. Li Jiwan, xenobiologist from Earth's United Science Division. Anxthel and Iltrix exchanged glances. They had expected something more terrifying. The reports had classified Earth as a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile that most galactic species would die within minutes of landing there. Yet here stood this seemingly harmless being, smiling politely. Welcome, Dr. Li, Anxthel said, keeping a safe distance as their safety protocols demanded. We are honored to have Earth join our scientific community. Though I must admit, we have some concerns about safety. Jiwan's smile didn't waver. I understand your concerns. I've read the safety protocols thoroughly. I assure you that humans are very good at adapting to new environments and being careful around other species. As they walked through the station's corridors, other alien scientists pressed themselves against the walls, their various appendages trembling. Some even ducked into nearby rooms. Ji-1 pretended not to notice, maintaining her professional demeanor. This will be your laboratory, Anxthel said, gesturing to a large room with reinforced walls. We've equipped it according to Earth specifications. The gravity is set to your planet's standards, though I cannot imagine how you function under such conditions. Jiwan looked around the lab, noting the heavy-duty equipment and triple-layered safety barriers. This is more than adequate. Thank you. Though I noticed the walls are rated for extreme impact resistance. Iltrix's tentacles twisted nervously. Yes. The reports indicate that humans can generate sudden bursts of extreme force when startled. We wanted to ensure the safety of the station. Jiwan had to suppress a laugh. I see. While it's true that humans can be quite strong when necessary, we're not in the habit of randomly destroying walls. She set her bag down on a nearby bench, causing both aliens to flinch at the casual display of movement under high gravity. If you don't mind, Anxthel said, we have some standard questions for our database. Your species is quite unique, and we want to ensure we have accurate information. Of course, Jiwan replied, taking a seat at her new desk. She noticed it was made of materials usually used in heavy industrial equipment. Iltrix activated a recording device. First question. Our scans indicate your internal temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. Is this normal, or are you currently experiencing some form of fever? That's normal body temperature for humans, Jiwan explained. We maintain it constantly. Both aliens' recording devices beeped in alarm. Constant internal heat. Anxthel's upper arms wrapped around his torso protectively. How do you prevent tissue damage? Our bodies are designed for it. It's actually essential for our survival, Jiwan said. She could see them making notes about internal thermal regulation and constant heat generation in their devices. Next question. Iltrix continued, still keeping maximum safe distance. Our atmospheric sensors indicate you are constantly releasing carbon dioxide. Is this a sign of distress? J1 spent the next 2 hours explaining basic human biology, watching as the alien scientists became increasingly amazed and disturbed. She explained about breathing, cellular respiration, the human digestive system, and their need for regular sleep cycles. You lose consciousness for several hours every day. Angstful asked, horrified. And this is normal? Yes, we call it sleep. It's how our bodies and minds recover from daily activities, Jai-1 explained patiently. And during this unconscious state, you experience visual and auditory hallucinations. Iltrix added, referring to dreams. They're not exactly hallucinations, but yes, we dream during sleep. It's a normal part of our mental processes. The questions continued until a soft chime sounded through the lab. G1 recognized it as the station's time signal for the end of the work cycle. I think that's enough for today, she said, standing up. Both aliens moved back quickly. I should get settled in my quarters. Tomorrow, I'd like to begin my research on comparing cellular structures across different planetary origins. Nixthal nodded all three of his head sections. Yes, of course. Yiltrix will show you to your quarters. We've prepared them according to human specifications, including the flat sleeping platform you requested. As they walked through the station's corridors, Jai-1 noticed something interesting. While most alien scientists still kept their distance, a few of the younger ones were watching her with obvious curiosity rather than fear. One small, floating creature that resembled a jellyfish even dared to come closer, its transparent tentacles glowing with bioluminescent patterns. "Hello there," Jai-1 said softly to the floating creature. It pulsed with blue light in response before quickly floating away. "That was Mexafi, one of our junior researchers," Yiltrix explained. "Please forgive their breach of safety protocols. Some of our younger scientists are less cautious than they should be around Deathworlders." They arrived at Jai-1's quarters, a spacious room with reinforced everything. The bed looked like it could support a small spacecraft, and the chair at the desk was built like a throne for a giant. "I hope these accommodations will be sufficient," Yiltrix said. "We've included an emergency beacon in case you experience any difficulties with our standard atmosphere mix." Jai-1 looked around the room, noting the multiple backup systems and safety features. "This is perfect, thank you. Though I should mention that humans don't actually need quite this level of structural support. Regular furniture would have been fine." Yiltrix's tentacles waved in what Jai-1 was beginning to recognize as their equivalent of a nervous laugh. "We prefer to err on the side of caution. Oh, and one more thing." They hesitated. "We've noticed in your biological data that you require regular intake of hydrogen dioxide. Water." "Yes, that's correct. We've installed a specialized dispensing system in your quarters. Please be careful when handling it." The thought of voluntarily ingesting such a powerful solvent. Yiltrix shuddered again. After Yiltrix left, Jai-1 sat on her oversized bed and took out her personal tablet. She began recording her daily log. Day 1 at the Galactic Research Institute. First impressions. The alien scientists are incredibly cautious, which is both amusing and slightly frustrating. Their perception of Earth as a death world has led to some interesting misconceptions about human capabilities. While it's true that our planet would be hostile to most galactic life forms, I think they've somewhat exaggerated our physical resilience. The station itself is fascinating, a perfect blend of various alien technologies. I've already noticed at least 7 different architectural styles, each adapted to accommodate different species' needs. The artificial gravity systems are particularly impressive, though they seem shocked by Earth normal gravity. Tomorrow, I'll begin my actual research work. I hope that as they get used to my presence, some of their fear will fade. There's so much we could learn from each other if they can move past seeing humans as dangerous creatures from a death world. Note to self: must remember to be extra gentle when handling equipment. They seem to expect me to accidentally crush everything I touch. Also must find a way to explain that the reinforced furniture really isn't necessary. Though I have to admit, the bed is quite comfortable, even if it is built to withstand a spacecraft landing. Jai-1 finished her log entry and walked to the water dispenser. As she filled a glass, she noticed warning signs in multiple alien languages surrounding the dispenser. She made out enough of the galactic standard script to read. Danger. Corrosive liquid dispenser. Deathworlder use only. She took a sip of water, wondering what they would think tomorrow when she introduced them to her morning coffee routine. If they thought water was dangerous, they were in for quite a surprise. Looking out her window at the vast expanse of space, Jai-1 felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. She wasn't just a scientist here. She was humanity's representative to the galactic scientific community. Their first impressions of humans would be largely based on her behavior and work. Small steps, she murmured to herself. They'll learn that we're not as dangerous as they think. Though maybe I should wait a while before showing them how humans dance or play sports. As she prepared for sleep, Jai-1 could hear the faint hum of the station's life support systems and the occasional sound of movement in nearby corridors. Even these normal sounds seemed to carry a sense of wonder. Here she was, the first human to work at the Galactic Research Institute, about to begin a journey of discovery that would bridge the gap between Earth and the wider galactic community. She set her alarm for the next morning, smiling as she imagined the aliens' reactions to her various morning routines. Tomorrow would certainly be interesting, especially when she unpacked her precious supply of coffee beans, but that was a challenge for another day. As she drifted off to sleep, Jai-1 couldn't help but wonder what other misconceptions she would encounter and what surprises she might have in store for her alien colleagues. One thing was certain: her time at the Galactic Research Institute would be anything but boring. The next morning arrived on the Galactic Research Institute with its usual efficiency. Dr. Lee Jai-1 woke up to the soft chime of her alarm, feeling refreshed despite the slightly different day-night cycle of the station. She sat up on her oversized bed and reached for her most precious possession, a sealed container of coffee beans from Earth. The station's morning cycle was just beginning, and various species were starting their daily routines. Jai-1 had studied their schedules carefully. Some needed to soak in nutrient baths, others had to recharge their energy cells, and a few had to perform complex molecular reorganization processes just to wake up. Jai-1's own morning ritual seemed simple in comparison, but it was about to cause quite a stir. She walked to the communal break room, carrying her small coffee maker and the container of beans. The room was already occupied by several alien scientists, including the jellyfish-like Sci-Fi from yesterday, who was absorbing minerals from a floating crystal. As soon as Jai-1 entered, the usual ripple of nervous movement spread through the room. She had expected this and kept her movements slow and deliberate. Setting up her coffee maker on a corner table, she began her morning routine. "Good morning, everyone," she said cheerfully, measuring out the coffee beans. The soft rattle of the beans hitting the grinder made several aliens twitch. Vultrix, who had been assigned as her safety supervisor, floated anxiously near the door. "Dr. Lee, what is that dark substance you're processing?" It's coffee," Jai-1 explained, starting to grind the beans. The grinding noise made one small, crystalline alien vibrate in alarm. "It's a traditional Earth beverage that helps us start our day." The aroma of freshly ground coffee filled the room. Immediately, several atmospheric sensors began flashing red. Vultrix's tentacles went rigid with shock. "Alert! Alert! The Deathworlder is releasing unknown chemical compounds into the air." An automated warning system announced in multiple languages. Jai-1 tried not to laugh as she calmly continued her preparation. "It's just the smell of coffee. It's completely harmless, I promise." By now, a small crowd had gathered at the break room's entrance, watching with a mixture of horror and fascination. Chief Researcher Anxethel pushed through the crowd, all three of his head sections focused intently on Jai-1's activities. "Dr. Lee," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "our sensors are detecting multiple toxic compounds in that substance. Are you aware that it contains caffeine?" He pronounced the word as if it were the name of a deadly weapon. Yes, that's one of its main features, Jai-1 replied, pouring hot water over the grounds. The sight of steam rising from the coffee maker caused another wave of alarm among the observers. But caffeine is a neurotoxin. Menxifi pulsed rapid patterns of concerned colors. It causes fatal disruptions in most known neural systems. Jai-1 waited patiently as her coffee brewed, the rich aroma filling the room despite the environmental filters working at maximum capacity. For humans, caffeine actually helps us function better. It improves our alertness and cognitive performance. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as she poured the dark liquid into her mug. The station's AI automatically updated the hazard warnings around her to include voluntary toxin consumption in its safety protocols. "You're going to drink that?" Trix asked, their tentacles now a pale shade of shock. "Would any of you like to scan it first?" Ji-1 offered, knowing this might help ease their concerns. Several scientists immediately activated their analysis devices. The results caused even more panic. It contains multiple alkaloids. The acidity levels are dangerous. The temperature is far above safe consumption parameters. There are oils suspended in the liquid. Jai-1 lifted the mug to her lips, causing several aliens to cover their visual organs. She took a long, appreciative sip of her coffee, closing her eyes in satisfaction. "Perfect," she murmured. The room erupted in chaos. 3 different emergency protocols activated at once. The medical team was automatically notified. Someone started programming the decontamination chambers. "Everyone, please calm down," Jai-1 said, holding up her free hand. "This is completely normal for humans. Look, I'm fine." Ixthal approached cautiously, his scientific curiosity apparently overcoming his fear. "You feel no adverse effects. No neural disruption. No cellular degradation. None at all. In fact, I feel much better now." Jai-1 took another sip. Coffee is an important part of human culture and daily life. Many of us drink it every morning. A young alien scientist who resembled a sentient cloud of gas moved closer, their particles swirling in interest. "Is this some form of ritual poison resistance training?" "No, it's just breakfast," Jai-1 explained. She could see several scientists frantically taking notes. "Though I suppose humans do have a rather high tolerance for substances that might be toxic to other species." The next hour turned into an impromptu lecture on human biochemistry and dietary habits. Jai-1 found herself explaining everything from the concept of hot beverages to the history of coffee cultivation on Earth. The aliens were particularly amazed by the fact that humans had discovered coffee by watching goats get energetic after eating coffee berries. "You based your consumption habits on observations of non-sentient creatures." Menxifi pulsed in disbelief. "Humans are very good at learning through observation and experimentation," Jai-1 explained. "Much of our early medicine and food came from watching animals." As the morning progressed, some of the braver scientists began conducting careful atmospheric analysis of coffee aroma. Others were documenting Jai-1's vital signs as she continued to drink what they still considered a dangerous toxin. "Fascinating," muttered a tall, spindly alien covered in sensor organs. "The human's neural activity actually increases after consuming the poison, and their physical capabilities appear to be enhanced." Jai-1 demonstrated this by solving several complex equations more quickly than usual, much to the amazement of her observers. "Coffee helps us focus and stay alert," she explained, "though too much can make us jittery." "You mean this substance can be overdosed?" Trix asked, horrified anew. "In a way, yes. But it takes a lot, and the effects are usually just discomfort rather than real danger." Jai-1 decided not to mention energy drinks just yet. That would be too much for them to handle in one day. By the end of the morning, the initial panic had somewhat subsided, though the break room was now permanently marked as a hazardous materials zone in the station's database. Several scientists had even started a research project on human chemical resilience, with coffee as their first case study. As Jai-1 prepared to head to her lab, Ixthal approached her again. "Dr. Lee, Would you be willing to provide more samples of this coffee for analysis? Under strict safety protocols, of course. I'd be happy to, she replied. And if you're interested, I could tell you about other Earth beverages too. Though maybe we should wait a while before I introduce you to spicy food. The mention of other unusual Earth substances caused a new wave of murmurs among the aliens. Ju-1 smiled to herself as she walked to her lab, already imagining their reactions to her lunch. She had packed some kimchi, and she suspected its fermented nature would cause even more fascinating discussions about human dietary habits. As she settled into her work, Ji-1 could hear the aliens in the corridor outside still discussing the morning's events. Their fear was gradually being replaced by scientific curiosity, which was exactly what she had hoped for. Sometimes, she reflected, the best way to bridge gaps between cultures was through everyday rituals, even if those rituals involved drinking what other species considered poison. She made a note in her personal log. Day 2. Successfully introduced alien scientists to coffee. Only 3 emergency protocols were activated, which is better than expected. Tomorrow's challenge: explaining why humans occasionally eat plants that cause pain responses, spicy food. Must remember to warn medical team in advance. 3 days after the coffee incident, the Galactic Research Institute was just beginning to return to normal. Dr. Lee Jae-won had established a routine, and the alien scientists were slowly getting used to her daily coffee consumption. Some even stayed in the break room while she made her morning brew, though they kept their environmental suits' filters on maximum. That morning, however, brought a new development that would throw the station into chaos once again. The transport ship Star Wanderer docked at the station, bringing new supplies and, more importantly, Earth's second representative to the Institute. Park Do-hyun, Ji-1's research partner, arrived carrying 2 large cases of equipment and a mysterious silver backpack. Ji-1 met him at the decontamination chamber, smiling as she watched the aliens run triple the usual safety scans on him. Welcome to the Institute, Do-hyun. How was your journey? Long, Do-hyun said, stepping out of the chamber. I really need an energy boost. Did you get my message about bringing extra supplies? Ji-1 nodded, but before she could respond, Do-hyun reached into his silver backpack and pulled out a brightly colored can. The station's sensors immediately began blaring warnings. Alert. Unknown chemical compound detected. Toxicity levels exceeding safe parameters. The station's AI announced in its calm but urgent voice. Weltrix, who had been monitoring the arrival from a safe distance, rapidly changed colors in alarm. Dr. Park, please secure that container immediately. Our sensors indicate it contains multiple hazardous substances. Do-hyun looked at the can in his hand, then at the panicking aliens. It's just an energy drink, he said, pulling the tab open with a soft hiss. The sound of the can opening triggered 3 different containment protocols. Emergency barriers began dropping from the ceiling, and decontamination sprays activated in nearby corridors. Not again, Ji-1 muttered, trying to calm the situation. Everyone, please remain calm. This is similar to coffee, just stronger. Stronger. Engsthal's 3 head sections all spoke at once in horror. The coffee substance was already beyond our safety limits. Do-hyun, unaware of the chaos he had caused, took a long drink from the can. The aliens watched in terrified fascination as the liquid disappeared into his mouth. Several monitoring devices overloaded and shut down. Ah, that's better, Do-hyun said, satisfied. 12 hours in space really drains you. Would you like one, Ji-1? Before she could answer, Assistant Researcher Eeltrix floated forward, their tentacles waving in scientific concern. Dr. Park, our scans indicate this substance contains even more caffeine than coffee, plus several other stimulant compounds. There are also carbonated water and artificial sweeteners. Yes, it helps keep me alert and focused, Do-hyun explained, finishing the can. I brought a whole case. They're essential for late-night research sessions. The phrase late-night research sessions triggered another wave of concern among the alien scientists. They had just gotten used to the idea of humans needing regular periods of unconsciousness, and now these Deathworlders were talking about intentionally staying awake even longer. HFY, who had been observing from nearby, pulsed rapid patterns of blue and green. You intentionally consume this to alter your sleep patterns. Is this not dangerous? Not really, Du Hyun said, reaching for another can. Humans do this all the time. It's perfectly safe. The second can cause even more panic than the first. Thul quickly called an emergency scientific council meeting, gathering the station's leading researchers to assess this new development. In the main conference room, displays showed chemical analyses of the energy drink, while Du Hyun and Ji-won tried to explain human caffeine consumption habits to a horrified audience. Let me understand this correctly, said a crystalline being who specialized in xenobiology. You not only consume the coffee toxin every morning, but also have developed even more potent versions of it. And you combine it with carbonated water, added another scientist, their gaseous form swirling in agitation. The same water that you already surprisingly drink in its normal state. Do Hyun nodded, not helping the situation by opening his third can. We have many different kinds of energy drinks. Some have additional vitamins and minerals too. This led to a long discussion about human dietary supplements, during which several alien scientists had to take breaks to process the information. The idea that humans would voluntarily consume additional minerals and chemicals for health benefits was almost too much for them to handle. I believe we need to revise our understanding of human chemical tolerance, Thul announced after hours of debate. Dr. Park, would you be willing to provide samples for analysis? Of course, Du Hyun agreed. I brought several different brands. Each has its own unique formula. The word unique formula caused another minor panic among the researchers. The idea that humans had developed multiple variations of what they considered poison was both fascinating and terrifying to them. As the day progressed, the Institute's research focus shifted entirely to studying human consumption habits. Teams of scientists analyzed the chemical composition of energy drinks, monitored Du Hyun's vital signs as he consumed them, and documented the effects on human cognitive function. Remarkable, muttered one researcher, reviewing the data. Their neural activity actually increases with each dose, but without the expected tissue damage. How do they process these toxins so efficiently? Ji-won and Du Hyun found themselves becoming the subjects of intense scientific scrutiny. Their every meal and drink was analyzed, documented, and studied. The station's medical team stayed on high alert, expecting at any moment to need their emergency protocols. By evening, Du Hyun had set up his laboratory equipment next to Ji-won's, while 3 different research teams worked nearby, studying their every move. The aliens were particularly interested in their work efficiency after consuming energy drinks. Should we tell them about hot sauce? Du Hyun whispered to Ji-won as they worked. Let's wait a bit, she replied quietly. I think capsaicin might be too much for them right now. They're still trying to understand why we drink carbonated beverages. As they prepared to end their workday, Thul approached them with what appeared to be a formal request. Dr. Park, Dr. Lee, the Institute would like to propose a dedicated research project studying human chemical tolerance. Your species' ability to consume and actually benefit from substances toxic to most known life forms is unprecedented. We'd be happy to help, Ji-won said, though you should know that energy drinks are just the beginning. Humans have developed quite a variety of interesting beverages and foods. The subtle change in color of Thul's head sections suggested both scientific excitement and nervous anticipation. There's more. Much more, Du Hyun confirmed. Wait until you learn about spicy food competitions. The phrase spicy food competitions was automatically logged by the station's database as a potential research topic, though several safety protocols were immediately attached to it. That night, as Ji-won updated her personal log, she couldn't help but smile at the day's events. Day 5. introduced the station to energy drinks. Safety protocols were activated only 7 times, though we did set a new record for emergency containment procedures. The aliens are beginning to view human chemical tolerance as less terrifying and more scientifically fascinating. Progress is being made, though I suspect tomorrow's lunch of extra spicy ramyeon might delay that progress somewhat. 1 week after Park Do-hyun's arrival at the Galactic Research Institute, senior researcher Kim Ta-hee stepped out of the transport ship Morningstar. She carried with her an official proposal from Earth's United Science Division that would change the Institute forever. The station's morning briefing room was packed with alien scientists of all shapes and sizes. Chief Researcher Engstall had called an emergency meeting to discuss the proposal. Kim Ta-hee stood at the front, her presentation ready. Distinguished colleagues, she began, I am here to propose a formal study of human chemical tolerance. We will document and analyze our species' unique ability to consume substances that other species consider toxic. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. Yiltrix's tentacles twisted nervously. You mean more substances like the coffee toxin and energy stimulants? Exactly, Ta-hee said, bringing up a holographic display. I have brought samples of various Earth beverages for controlled testing. All safety protocols will be followed. Jae-won and Do-hyun sat in the back of the room, trying not to smile as Ta-hee listed the test substances: coffee, tea, energy drinks, carbonated sodas, and sports drinks. Each item caused new waves of concern among the alien scientists. The experiment will be conducted in 3 phases, Ta-hee explained. First, chemical analysis of each substance. Second, monitored consumption by human subjects. Third, documentation of effects on human physiology and performance. Engstall's 3 head sections conferred briefly before he spoke. The Institute approves this study, but we require maximum safety measures. The testing chamber must be sealed and monitored at all times. The next day, the experiment began. The testing chamber looked more like a military bunker than a laboratory. 3 layers of energy shields surrounded it, and every possible sensor was activated. Jae-won, Do-hyun, and Ta-hee sat at a table inside the chamber. Before them stood an array of Earth beverages. Outside, dozens of alien scientists watched through observation windows, their various sensory organs focused intently on the proceedings. Beginning Phase 1, Ta-hee announced. Chemical analysis of test substance A, green tea. The aliens watched in fascination as their sensors analyzed the steaming liquid. HFY, now part of the research team, reported the findings. Contains multiple plant alkaloids, including more caffeine. Also present are compounds called polyphenols. Correct, Ta-hee said. Green tea is actually considered healthy by human standards. It contains antioxidants that benefit our cellular function. This statement caused considerable confusion. You intentionally consume plant defense chemicals for health benefits? Asked a gaseous researcher, their form swirling in disbelief. Moving to test substance B, Ta-hee continued, opening a can of cola. The sharp hiss of carbonation made several aliens flinch. Carbonated water again, Yiltrix noted, but now combined with high concentrations of refined sugar and artificial compounds. The acidity levels are concerning. The analysis continued through each beverage. The aliens were particularly disturbed by the sports drinks, which they discovered contained electrolytes and minerals in concentrations they considered dangerous. Beginning Phase 2, Ta-hee announced. Human subjects will now consume each substance in controlled amounts. The observation room went silent as the 3 humans began drinking the test substances. Jae-won started with tea, Do-hyun took an energy drink, and Ta-hee selected a sports drink. Multiple monitoring devices recorded their vital signs. Remarkable, muttered a crystalline researcher. Their bodies are actually processing these compounds efficiently. No signs of distress or organ failure. As the experiment continued, the humans demonstrated various tasks to show the effects of the beverages. They solved complex equations, performed reflex tests, and completed coordination challenges. The data showed improved performance with moderate caffeine consumption. Phase 3 documentation, Tahi said, displaying the results. As you can see, these beverages can enhance human cognitive and physical performance when consumed in appropriate amounts. The alien scientists were fascinated by the concept of dose-dependent effects. The idea that a toxic substance could be beneficial in measured amounts was revolutionary to their understanding of xenobiology. But how did humans discover these effects? HFY asked. The risks of testing such substances. Human history is full of experimentation with various plants and substances, Jai-1 explained. Our ancestors learned through trial and error what was harmful and what was beneficial. This led to a long discussion about human evolution and adaptation. The aliens were amazed to learn that humans had developed their chemical tolerance through generations of exposure to various substances on Earth. Your planet's high gravity and diverse ecosystem forced your species to adapt, Yultrix observed. You evolved not just to survive toxins, but to utilize them. As the day progressed, more tests were conducted. The humans demonstrated the different effects of various caffeine sources. They explained how some beverages were for energy, others for hydration, and some simply for enjoyment. You consume potentially dangerous substances for pleasure? A shocked researcher asked. Sometimes, Du-Gyun admitted. Many Earth foods and drinks are chosen for their taste rather than their nutritional value. This concept required several hours of additional discussion. The idea of consuming anything for reasons other than basic survival was foreign to many alien species. By the end of the experiment, the research team had compiled an impressive amount of data. They documented human metabolism of various compounds, the effects on performance, and the surprisingly high tolerance levels for substances toxic to other species. In conclusion, Tahi presented, human chemical tolerance appears to be a result of both biological adaptation and intentional cultural practices. We have developed ways to safely consume and even benefit from substances that would harm other species. The findings were revolutionary for the Institute. Several new research projects were immediately proposed to study other aspects of human physiology and adaptation. As the three humans left the testing chamber, they overheard HFY speaking to his research team. These findings will revolutionize our understanding of species adaptation. We must prepare a formal report for the Galactic Science Council. Later that evening, in their common room, the three humans celebrated the successful experiment with cups of tea, much to the continued amazement of the monitoring systems. Should we tell them about human spice tolerance next? Du-Hyun asked with a grin. One thing at a time, Tahi replied. Though I did bring some gochugaru for tomorrow's lunch experiment. Jai-1 updated her log one final time that day, day 12. Completed the beverage tolerance experiment. The aliens are beginning to understand that human chemical tolerance is not just about survival, but adaptation and cultural development. Though I suspect tomorrow's spicy food demonstration might set us back a bit in terms of their comfort levels. Must remember to warn the fire suppression systems in advance. 1 month after the arrival of the first human at the Galactic Research Institute, Chief Researcher HFY stood before the Galactic Science Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species across the galaxy. Today, they would present their groundbreaking findings about human chemical tolerance. Esteemed members of the Council, HFY began, his 3 head sections moving in perfect harmony. Our research team has made discoveries that will change our understanding of species adaptation forever. A holographic display is activated, showing data from the human experiments. Dr. Lee Ju-won, Park Du-Hyun, and Kim Tae-hee sat in the audience, watching as their month of research was presented to the galaxy's leading scientific minds. Humans, classified as Class 12 Deathworlders, have demonstrated remarkable abilities that go beyond mere survival. HFY continued. They have developed cultural practices around consuming substances that would be lethal to most species. The council chamber filled with murmurs as HFY displayed videos of the humans drinking coffee, energy drinks, and carbonated beverages. The footage of their spicy food experiments caused particular concern among the council members. As you can see, Yiltrix added, floating forward to present their findings, humans not only survive these toxins, but actually benefit from them. Their bodies have evolved efficient systems to process these compounds. A council member who resembled a living crystal formation spoke up. How did they achieve this level of adaptation? Kim Tahi stood to answer the question. Earth's environment forced our species to adapt to various challenges. High gravity made us physically resilient. Our diverse ecosystem, filled with different plants and compounds, led to advanced chemical processing abilities. But the most fascinating aspect, Jai-1 added, is how we turned these adaptations into cultural practices. What started as survival mechanisms became part of our daily lives. The council watched in amazement as Du Hyun demonstrated the preparation of various earth beverages. He explained how humans had learned to cultivate plants containing caffeine and other compounds, turning potential toxins into valuable resources. The implications of this research are significant, HFY said. We must revise our understanding of species adaptation and toxicity. What is lethal to one species might be beneficial to another. The presentation continued with detailed analysis of human metabolism, showing how their bodies processed different compounds. The council was particularly interested in the cognitive effects of caffeine and the cultural significance of shared beverage consumption. Humans have transformed their biological adaptations into social rituals, Yiltrix explained. The act of sharing these beverages has become an important part of their society. As the presentation concluded, the council began their deliberations. The humans waited patiently, sipping tea and coffee, while their alien colleagues still monitored their vital signs out of habit. Finally, the council announced their decision. This research will be archived as a landmark study in xenobiology, the chief council member declared. We hereby establish new protocols for studying species adaptation and chemical tolerance. The council's decision had immediate effects across the galaxy. The classification system for planetary environments and species capabilities was updated to include more nuanced categories. The term Deathworlder was revised to highly adapted species, acknowledging that survival in extreme conditions created unique advantages. Back at the Institute, the Humans Research Area became a center for studying adaptive abilities across species. Scientists from across the galaxy came to learn about human resilience and adaptation. Did you ever imagine your morning coffee would cause such a revolution in galactic science? Du Hyun asked Jai-1 as they watched new research teams arrive at the station. I'm more surprised that they're still running safety protocols every time we drink it, she replied, gesturing to the monitoring devices that had become a permanent fixture around them. The Institute had changed significantly over the past month. The initial fear of humans had been replaced by scientific curiosity. Even HFY had started a research project studying the effects of different earth beverages on human brain activity. The most important thing we've learned, HFY said during a staff meeting, is that our preconceptions about other species can limit our understanding. What we consider dangerous might be normal or even beneficial to others.